So now I want to revisit an old anime that got lost in the shuffle of all these new and more popular animes. But it isn't forgotten.
The
You made
first
it.
episode of Seraph the End was like
Yeah.
one of like the best first episodes of like
Yeah.
I remember for a while that we had had. It was
Yeah.
such a good first episode, and then
Right.
yeah,
Not
When I saw that Sea-Dog was the only big YouTuber to bring this show up, it had me think two things. One, he's kinda a normie, so when he did watch Seraph the End, when was this? And the second thought was, what exactly happened to the show? So I did some Google searches, found out that it was in the top 100 of all-time popular animes. Who would have thought? And instantly recognized and realized that I was going to have to do a lot of digging. But let's pause here. If you're new to this channel, my name is Barry, and this is my Why Seraph of the End isn't getting a season 3. I talk about what goes on behind your favorite animes. Now, if you like this type of content, make sure to leave me a like down below, because that sends a signal to YouTube saying to push this video, and I would really want to get to 500 likes on this particular video. Lastly, a staggering amount of people like my videos but don't subscribe, so please do consider subscribing, and if you do, comment saying I subscribe, and I'll do my best to comment back to you. Now let's talk about the show. The show starts out with the whole humanity being brought to the brink of destruction to only miraculously barely survive. While some people call it generic and try to shit on the show for following this type of an archetype, I would like to remind you that you like rewatching the retelling of these type of shows. Tokyo Ghoul, Attack on Titan, Exorcist, God Eater, Darling in the Franxx, etc. These shows are very similar to each other, so saying that they're simply generic and are bad because of this is a poor argument to me. In the past, I have done this before, but after reviewing more and more shows, it's more constructive to really lay down the differences between them and to say why one is better or worse compared to their peers. In this show, Vampires and the Four Horsemen of John, which RIP Horsemen of John, these forces are battling humanity for the Earth. The only ones known to be alive still are kids under the age of 13, like Yu and Mikaela, who have more in-depth backstories but was shortened because of the sake of the anime. I feel like the show effectively does this though. These two and their foster family are taken to the vampires, who only see them as nothing but livestock. The kids try to escape, but it was simply all a form of entertainment for the noble Farid, who kills all the kids except for Yu. That being because he escaped. After running away in the mountains, he meets Gurren, who acts now as his guardian or god?
Oh yeah? Well then what are you?
Guardian, your superior, lifesaver. I'm basically your god.
Gurren is an asshole, lazy commander who's grieving over his girlfriend being murdered by one of his allies. Oh, did I say grieving? I meant possessed. Yeah, this show deals a little bit with supernatural as well, with the whole making deals with demons and would-be gods. Gurren also has a thing for kicking Yu and punching him. Yu makes new friends and is basically the kill-happy Eren Yeager of the franchise. But this alters after he sees Mikaela, who is still alive. And we see that the show has a thing with hiding secrets and doing a lot of things similar to Attack on Titan. Personally, I don't really care because it does have a pretty interesting story altogether. There still are a lot of things that have not been adapted to the screen, like Cruel's true intentions. Only Mikaela knows what's going on with her, or like is Gurren really possessed by Shinoa's sister? Also, the ending of the war between vampires and humans. What exactly is Yu, and was it the humans or more the vampires that did the majority of the experiments? We also need to know more about the Higaragis, because from what I see, they want to have world domination, but I doubt they could actually win when all said is done. Also, what does the outside of the borders look like? Because you know other countries would have survived. Like in Attack on Titan, I expect other countries to be the real enemy after, say, Season 3. So instead of the community trying to badmouth the show because of its similarities, they should be trying to hype it up as the semi-conclusion to one of their most favorite franchises. The way the finale ended was also really crazy and confusing, but I will say for a show like this, I would have rather them really try to explore the transformations. Unfortunately, they stick with the whole demons and angels things, that with that being the big reveal, and that's really a big disappointment because there's tons of supernatural creatures that the Japanese media never tries to incorporate into their projects. Another real complaint is the animation quality. The art style is charming for the characters, but the overall world landscaping is poor. And I mention this because they got the same studio, Studio Wit, which is in the top 5 in studio quality. So I don't know what happened here. Now, this is the part that really breaks my heart. Now we're gonna talk about the Blu Ray sales. Like, I want this anime to win, but this is where I have to look at the numbers and call it how it is, to give the people what happened. And oftentimes, making this video, I really do feel like the bad guy because I say the truth about the animes and just talk about how it's reflected in the numbers. I even got into arguments in the comment section for how I talk in these videos. But it is what it is. Seraph of the End came out in spring 2015, with the second season coming out in the fall, which, like every year, has some stiff competition. In fact, it was the prime year and month for a lot of the other all-time popular animes. I actually talked about this in my last video, why Plastic Memories isn't getting a season 2. So if you haven't watched that video, make sure to go watch that after this one. But briefly, in that video I talked about how Damanchi Season 1, Food Wars, Snafu, DxD, Nisekoi, Assassination Classroom, Fairy Tail, and Fate all came out that same split. A lot of the other mainstream animes came out at this time. If your name wasn't one of them, then good luck getting more than 1K sales, because these animes are taking all the money. Which makes me ask the question, how many copies did Seraph of the End sell? It sold 210 copies. Not for the first season, but for 2 seasons it was around for. Which, I shouldn't have to tell you, is bad. So how much money did they make? They made 2,730,000 yen, which is $24,890.48. Oh wait, cancel that. I made a mistake. They did make that amount of money, but they actually sold 3,823 copies for the first season and 2,521 copies for the second season, which is a total of 6,344 copies, which isn't a lot, but isn't bad. But for comparison, Attack on Titan sold 53,221 copies. Still 6,344 copies in 2 years, enough to justify having a third season. Honestly, I would want to say yes. It takes millions to make a complete anime, and Seraph of the End made 2. Granted, most calculations are made using USD dollars and not yen, so in that case, it didn't make that much at all. And in comparison, for just making 1 episode, it takes $200,000 to make an episode. The problem I see with making season 3 is Shueisha, the mainstream overlords that decide what's the new mainstream title. They've made nearly all the mainstream animes except for Attack on Titan. Seraph of the End was probably their answer to this problem they were having. I usually talk about all the studios and producers here, but Shueisha is the most important one that I found, even though it's not the majority owner of the project. Rokuansha, who was the majority owner, gave up their rights to the show to NBC Universal and Shueisha, so I honestly do see them making a season 3 in the future, even though the title did not make nearly enough money to make it a net positive. So I honestly do see them making a season 3 in the future, maybe as soon as Attack on Titan being completed. Lastly, I see it getting another season because World Trigger got 12 episodes. New episodes. A show that fits the same plotline basically, and came out in the same era. And a show that sold far less than Seraph of the End. And if they were able to get 52 episodes to begin with, and then sell less, and then come back out with 12 more episodes, and like I said, still sell less, then yeah, I can see this show getting a season 3. Is it on the high list of priorities to do? No, it's not, but is it more possible than any other shows I've reviewed up to this point? Yes, it is. So my final thoughts on the show. Overall, I want to put this anime at a 3 out of 5, but part of me thinks it's not there. I want to say it's actually like a 2.7, given that some scenes just don't make sense, and because the animation was poor, given the studio that they were given, and I couldn't remember what most of the characters even looked like, including the main lead and his friends, which is a huge problem seeing that they were in 2 seasons of the anime. Like, be honest, Shinoa was the only character you remember from the show, and that's because she had purple hair, and that was really cool at the time. I did remember Mikaela, but not for good reasons. I completely forgot these 2 were even in the show. Given that the show still has one of the most memorable intros with Cruel, if it does come back, I want some serious changes to the animation. I do want to mention the story is still ongoing at the time, and the producers might have been waiting for the damn manga to be finished. Cause fudge. You guys just don't know. It gets good. There's enough content for, I would say, one more season, but not two. Now, if you like this content, do make sure to leave me a like down below, because that sends the message to YouTube that, hey, I really like this content. Also, I really do hope that we get to like 500 likes on this video. That'd be really sick. Also, let me know down in the comment section, do you even want a season 3? Comment yes or no. Lastly, a staggering amount of people like the video but don't subscribe. So please do consider subscribing.